So what? So you now have built this company up. What, 120 people?
Yep.
What have been some of the personally the biggest challenges, things you've learned?
I mean, I think I was thinking about it and having seen your other interviews, but I think that there are really three. If I look at the most important decisions, not really necessarily the lesson learned, that if we had full control of, and if we had made wrong, we wouldn't be here. And it's really interesting, I think, to look at it. I would say the investors obviously very important, but it's not a decision you make; they make it, right? You pitch to them and you hope they invest. But the first one was to pick the founders team, and I have Phil Worthington, Mark Kornfield, both in New York, and Daya, which was my CTO previously in London, but moved back to his hometown in Bangalore in India, and picking up that team and ensuring that even though we had really rough time, like any founders together, we're still all there together and more than ever committed to the business, and more importantly having more fun because now it's growing and so on, and the hard times. But a really tough time when the company maybe wouldn't be there anymore, are kind of behind. At least it looks like it. So that would say number one decision: pick the right founding team. Without that, we wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. Number two is really what we did, where we picked the idea. So that's actually number one. Had we not picked live streaming as a bet, which obviously at that time wasn't very obvious, we probably wouldn't be here yet. So we were both, the intuition was right and we were lucky. But obviously fundamentally in any startup, if you try to create something that people don't want, you can have the best team, the best whatever, it's not going to happen. And the third one, which I wouldn't have, and there's a lesson behind that one, I wouldn't have thought was the case, is when we named the company Mogulus, it was the first time I personally, was engaged in consumer marketing. I wasn't involved in that. And you name a company, you have to convince your co-founders, you then have to, tell investors that's the best name you can have, you then tell your customers it's the best name. Your customers go to their boss and they say, I'd like to work with that company called Mogulus. And then one day, something goes in your head and you're like, sometimes I tell people that, I work for Mogulus or I built Mogulus, and people look at me like, like I'm stupid. And you get all these little signs and you put your hand up one day and you say, actually, this was the worst decision ever, and here's the new plan, which was to rename to Livestream. So that clearly, I think it's funny because it's not fundamental, it's not product, it's not whatever, but I think for our market, it was it immediately, positioned us differently and grew us. It was, I don't think we'll be around with the current revenue growth, which we need to stay around if we were called Mogulus. But more importantly, the lesson is that, as an entrepreneur, you have to first persevere, convince people, you think you might be wrong, you're not sure, but you keep going at it. And then you have to be able to say, actually, I was wrong, and do it in a very public way. The name is an obvious one, but tell your team, I was wrong, tell your customer, tell your investors. And it's tough emotionally for all these people that, convinced other people that you were right. So I think that skill, perseverance, everybody talks about it as an entrepreneur skill, but the skill to recognize mistake and correct them. I'm not talking about pivot here. I'm talking, talking about that and have another plan. I think is a very important skill to the past, and I think one that will be a great quality of our team for the future. So.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're out of time. So
wow, that's great.
Okay, sorry, but thanks for being here.
No, thanks for having me. So really appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks.